So, so yeah. First of all, cheers. I'm drinking some tea. I don't know if you've already your tea for the day, but
Yes, I had some tea much earlier. Well, just a couple minutes earlier, maybe an hour ago. It was very good.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice. So, okay. So my channel, I'm not really sure what I want it to be yet, but I
Mhm.
know that it's one of the few creative things that I've actually wanted to do with my life. I love music, but I don't really like playing it. I love art, but I'm not much of a, your traditional artist. I don't really like painting. I don't really like drawing, but I love to talk.
Uh-huh.
Um, anyway, so it's going to be about a lot of different things, but I really liked your channel. The algorithm blessed me with this one, so I just ended up finding you. I had anyway, so I like the content that you have, and I guess I'm just going to get into some questions about your um, your channel, yourself, and
hmm
things that you're interested in, and we can just kind of let it flow from there.
Okay, before
Um,
you jump in there, I want to ask, what kind of music do you like? You see, I have my piano back
uh,
here. It's like I play piano. I like classical music.
well,
Yeah.
I that's the thing is it's a tough question actually for me to answer because I'm open. I'm sure most YouTubers are high in openness in general. So I
hmm
am open to all kinds of music. I love piano, but mostly as far as purely instrumental music, I just like the cello and the violin.
Oh,
As
very
far,
nice.
just
Yeah.
instrumental,
hmm
it really gets my mind in a good space. And what else? I had a period of my life, which I think I'm past. Sometimes I don't know. Uh, that I guess metalcore would be the
hmm
elect metalcore, trance, atmospheric, black metal. Some very, you know, I don't know. They still resonate with me very much, but I don't find myself blasting them on the way home as much as I used to. So.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
probably
Very
a good
cool.
thing, I would say, but
Yeah. There's something about the rhythmic metal music that I just love. It's so like, I mean, there's the technically very good. It has good music theory, but then the rhythm is just so unique and it's yeah, captivating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I am a sucker for I'm a sucker for I wish I knew how to. I don't spend much time. I haven't talked about this much, but yeah, just atmospheric is a cliche way to describe it. But I
Mhm.
like music with depth because I'm a very visual person. When I think about
Oh,
symbols and when I have experiences, they create massive visuals in my head. I'm not I wouldn't say synesthesia or anything, but I'm just a very visual person.
yeah.
So that's that. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay,
And I
sorry.
like sorry, no, and I like hip hop and rap. I love Kendrick Lamar. I
Uh-huh.
love uh even back in the day, Eminem. I still like some of Eminem stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's always good to
So
go back to the classics and stuff. Yeah.
sure, yeah. So Led Zeppelin, some of the classics, blessed me with that the taste for some of the classic rock and blues. So I love
Nice.
that too. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Always happy to talk
So
music.
great,
Yeah.
great. So yeah, did you have any other questions on the get go? Otherwise, I'll just get started
No,
with my
let's
sort of scattered schedule here.
let's jump into it.
Awesome. All right, first one's a bit well. So why is tea such a vibe?
What?
What
Um,
and I mean that just I was just kind of a funny way to say how did you get into drinking tea? Because as many people are caffeine enthusiasts, but
yeah.
tea is unique for chemical reasons and otherwise. So why do you like tea so much?
I um I sort of accidentally got into it. I just like the expertise of there's like the ceremonial aspect of it and it's kind of it's cool to see and there's there's something about the expertise of like rattling off what it tastes like and the mastery of having to present it in a particular way. And that just drew me to it initially. And that's what I thought was really cool. And I kind of wanted to impress my friends and that sort of stuff. But then I started drinking it and really just trying to make everything better.
Mm,
And it kind of opened up, for some reason, I just started to notice that uh, everything that I do in my life affects my tea. I just started paying so much close attention to the tea that I noticed that everything else in my life would affect the tea. And that obviously translates to everything else. Like how I how I do anything is kind of how I do everything. And I just really noticed that with tea. And that's why for me it just kind of broke open something. And that's why I
mm.
really love it to this day.
Yeah, I like that description. That's like so your sort of experience with um, the not just the tea drinking itself and what it does for your your focus, your body, that your bodily experience, but
Yeah.
also the respect for the ceremonial particulars. And so I just, what in particular you were saying, how you do tea is how how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yes.
I like that description because I um I, I don't know, like I like I like to think that that can be applied to most people's lives,
Hmm.
you know. I don't believe that if you're, I don't know, it's a tricky one. I just think people would benefit if they took, I guess what I'm trying to say is, their free time and things like tea as seriously as they do their work life. Something like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So that's what I was trying to say. But yeah, I like that description. Um, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that
Yeah,
was
well, I
good.
mean, that's basically it. That's the main reason why I really, really still like tea now, because it just made that so obvious to me. But then, of course, there's the other basic aspects of it. It's just that, tea tastes really good. When you get really nice teas, it's like it's pretty mind-blowing how good tea can get.
Wow. So I may have to, and this is not just me being agreeable for the sake of podcast, but I really do enjoy tea much more than any other caffeine source, and I don't treat it with the most respect. I mean, I just I don't pay attention to the temperature of the water
Hmm.
necessarily and things like that, but I love black tea, white tea, green tea. There are some subtleties to it. So anyway, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it might be worth it. So with that, get into some more I guess serious topics. But uh, okay, so fakery. First of all, your name is Zachary. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, Zachary. Yeah. But yes,
Zach.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. So fakery. What does that word mean to you in the context of your channel? Like,
So
yeah, yeah.
in the context of the channel, I guess it's a reminder that everything that we do is sort of, it's a reminder that everything's not very important. It's a reminder
Mm,
that the face that we put on for the public, and even the face that we put on for ourselves, is we don't need to cling on to it forever. We don't need to like try to make it real. We don't need to try to like solidify it and be stuck there. It's all fake.
yeah.
Um, but that's
Right.
not actually where the name came from. The name is more of a music name. It's an old name that I used to use. I just would call myself Fake Zachary because I started using different techniques in music that I wasn't used
Hmm.
to. So I just went by Fake Zachary, and now I guess it still applies in some different way, but that's not the actual
Yeah.
origin.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it's so it was a very organic development of the name. It just kind of,
Yes.
yeah, I like that. No, no, I when I was kind of reviewing your channel, I was looking at some of the oldest your original videos, that I, just the more fundamental ones that you focused on a couple, concepts. And I really enjoyed listening to those. But some of the newer ones, um, yeah, it really, I like it. I like that you're, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you are sort of exposing, and not in a mean way, but it's, someone's got to do it. I mean, if, guys like these, Leo, I forget his name, but
Yeah.
I followed him for quite a bit in
Mhm.
college, and I felt the same way. I mean, I think it's inevitable. I kind of feel bad, but char- characters like that um, they get so deep into a subject, and they become this character, right? They
Yep.
have a lot of attention, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
important, they get high on their own supply.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I am not immune to that, right? So
Mhm.
like, but someone's gotta keep them in check, just like the quantum physics community,
Yep.
and everyone's, such and such is theory of everything.
Mhm.
Some physicist is gonna be the equivalent of fakery, and light them up and say, we really don't know what we're talking about yet.
Yep.
So
Yep.
um, so I like, it's the back and the forth, it's the back and forth, and it's not mean. I think it can, like, the good
Could
example would
be.
be, just that sort of debunking
Yeah.
attitude.
Yeah.
I That one I really dislike, not just because I feel personally attacked, because when I wildly speculate, I'm sure those people are probably talking about people like me, but
Yep.
I tend to just be more open.
Mhm.
Um I don't like to debunk people just to be a party pooper, or to be edgy, because
Yeah.
it can go the other way. You can
Mhm.
act new agey and talk about the observer effect and quantum physics, and how, you can go both ways with it. But I would rather go that way than to say, yeah, we're all just atoms. And
Mhm.
because people just want something richer, or more rich with life. And I so maybe they go about it in not the best way, but I think everyone just wants some magic in their life, you know, in
Yeah,
some way.
definitely. Definitely. It's a very important thing for a lot of people, and I try to challenge some different ideas, um, but it's not really. Sometimes hmm. I don't want to fall into the debunking thing like you're referring to here, where there's this sort of attitude of challenging something, but then also dismissing it in the challenge, and kind of like downplaying everything that Leo would have to say, and just
Right.
kind of having this sort of dumbfoundedness for a loss of understanding of the concepts. I don't want to go that far. I'm really challenging the ideas in order to offer a different perspective,
Hmm.
because you can see it in different ways, and there are different nuances that a person can pick up on to that really resonates with them, and that they can integrate these ideas into their lives. So really my challenges are meant to be sort of gentle, and just to give different perspectives for people to see and be offered. But I'm not
Right.
trying to say that what I'm saying is more true than what Leo says, or what Leo says is more true than what anybody else says. I'm not trying to find some sort of objective truth. I'm trying to give different options so that we can all grow from there, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, a word that's been kind of just flying through my head lately with things like this is, it's more useful. It's
Yep.
more useful to me and to you and to everyone, if we don't, like, a physicist, um, Lee Smolin, if you ever heard of him.
Never heard of them.
He's Yeah, he's a bit of a controversial figure, but I mean, he's world class nonetheless. He is, but he's just, more about the attitude of not no, but
Mhm.
yes, and,
Yeah.
sort of like, hey, I don't quite agree with what you're saying, but there's a little nugget there that I
Hmm.
think kind of aligns with where I'm trying to go, and it's that more of cooperation or cooperative attitude. And I'm not again, this isn't ideal. Like it's hard to do this stuff, but
Yeah.
this is why we're talking about stuff like this, because this is, what's what makes the internet conversations valuable, because people can see this and say, hey, I've been thinking that too, and I've been shouted down by my boss or
Yeah.
my coworker or my friend, and but so yeah. Anyway,
Hmm.
I'm glad you resonate with that. That's awesome. And it's just fun to have the conversations. It's just it's a feel good thing,
Yeah.
when there's not unnecessary friction.
Hmm.
Um, I have a bunch of questions here, and also feel free. I don't mean to just like put you in the hot seat and interview you the entire time. You can ask me whatever questions as well if they
Okay.
come up.
Okay.
Um, let's see here. I mean, I got pretty much everything that's on the uh, on the trend here, but I guess more specific to you. Let's see here. Okay, so not nihilism would be a good one to talk about.
Sure.
So, I don't know if this is a loaded question, but are you a nihilist, or are you nihilistic? I don't know. If that's the right word, but
I would personally identify as a nihilist, but I'm
okay.
sure people from the outside would not think of me as a nihilist. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I would personally
Yeah.
identify as
So
nihilist. Yeah. Mhm.
okay. So when I think, a lot of people, when they think of nihilism, they think of negativity. At
Yes.
least I do. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't understand it like that anymore, but I don't think it's nihilism itself that's negative, but just how how it permeated our culture, and however that happened,
Yeah.
the types of people that ended up becoming nihilists, and maybe, yeah, they're angry, they're pissed off, they're like,
Yeah.
hey, life is some bullshit, and we shouldn't care about really anything. So
Hmm.
it's like, again, this is like that no but and yes and thing. I there's So what do you think is useful about nihilism, or how's it been useful to you?
So the important thing about nihilism is to not be stuck with any particular worldview or any attachment to some idea of what is true or what must be true or what should be the case, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
I think that is important to drop. The biggest issue I think I see with people who are that sort of angry nihilist or
Hmm.
even like existentialist type folks, um,
Hmm.
I like to think of it as a meaning addiction. So we're searching for meaning and we want something to be meaningful. And
Yeah.
even when we see that the world is meaningless, some people come to that conclusion, they still want more. They're frustrated because there's no meaning. And really, the people who aren't searching for meaning are the happy people. Because they have meaning. They may be searching for meaning because they have meaning, or they may be not searching for meaning because they've just dropped the idea of needing meaning. And I think we
Right.
can just cut it from there. Just don't need any meaning and go from
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, I like that. I think it appeals to the idea also that, and an intuition, a deep feeling that or yeah, a feeling that I've had for a while, after surveying, going through your self-help phase, trying to find, who's got the answers, is it's almost like we we've had the answer to a lot of these questions for a long time,
Yep.
that there is not an answer.
Mhm.
Um, and what? Oh man, I got so excited. I think I just messed my brain up. So hold on. Hold on. Yeah, but that was the basic of what I was trying to say, is just that, um, uh, like when you ask a good scientist, not like a scientist who, like, I don't know, maybe name drop, but like a Richard Dawkins type, who
Uh-huh.
maybe is a little more combative, but like when you ask a good scientist about the meaning of life, they say, well, I don't really think there is any meaning, but
Hmm.
it seems that as far as humans are concerned, it's about meaningful activity and pursuing meaningful activities, whatever those are for you.
Hmm.
Um, tea time, time with friends, your family. I mean, these are mundane things, but they are some of the most quote unquote real things that we have in this life are
Yeah.
other people and our conscious experience, whatever that is.
Hmm.
But um, yeah, we have the answers to a lot of these things. And I think it's just maybe like a cultural scale or population scale, like behavioral hang up, where for a long we're just hung up on this. And then there might be a time in the future when we just kind of move past this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's my
definitely.
hope. That's my hope. Maybe we will, but
Yeah.
maybe
And I think this ties in a lot to what you're saying about people needing magic or wanting some sort of magic in their lives. I
Mhm.
find it very unfortunate that we've sort of made this arbitrary distinction between what is mundane and normal and then what is magical. And we
Mhm.
kind of we're stuck with the idea that anything that's sort of explainable by science is necessarily no longer magical. It doesn't have that awe, and
Right.
that stuckness of saying, well, since it's explainable, then it's not magical. That leads to the lack of magic. But if you're not, if you just don't have that distinction, just like throw it out the window. Who cares if it's explainable, if it's not explainable? Who cares if it was accidental? Who cares if it was luck? Who cares if it's real? Then suddenly you can interact with everything as magically and have that same awe with everything. I think that's very helpful for me, at least. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's worth I agree that it's worth trying that because I and it's easy to scare people away with that idea
Yep.
because I think it's and it's kind of like the situation with marijuana. You have those people that really understand it for its true at least I think its most fundamental importance, but then you have those who are abusing it for different reasons
Yep.
and they sort of ruin its picture, you know.
Hmm.
So what I guess what I'm trying to say is like the importance of what of viewing things as interacting with the world as if it's a miracle, as if many of these things, being grateful for them as if they're magical. It doesn't. That does not mean that you're going to be in a perpetual state of bliss,
Hmm.
which again, I at one time was looking for that too. I was looking for it through caffeine, alcohol, other drugs,
Yep.
nootropics.
Hmm.
That's what people are looking for.
Yep.
They're not really looking for, at least most people aren't looking for true, cognitive benefits. They're looking for peak experience,
Yep.
but either way, what you're saying, I think it's worth doing because and it just brings you into the moment a little more.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm not articulating very well, but anyway, let's see here. And any thoughts you have, like I said, I don't want to keep just going down the line. If you have anything to say, just say it.
Okay.
Let's see here. Okay, might as well get right to it. Okay, so I covered nihilism. Oh, okay, just a little bit about non-duality. I really enjoyed your video about non-duality,
Hmm.
and I did say I remember I commented on one of your videos and um, where I just asked why is reason not the way?
Uh-huh.
Because I am kind of I'm supposed to go to graduate school soon, and I'm kind of in that mindset where reason is my whole being. I'm
Yeah.
studying, I'm trying to be analytical and be objective or whatever.
Hmm.
But it gets you in that space, and so anyway, yeah, what is non-duality to you? Yeah, how's it been useful? How'd you or and also too, at any point throughout the discussion and at the end too, if you have any book recommendations that you think are, are worth it, feel free to
Okay.
share those too.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. So non-duality to me is, well, it's like if you have a coin and you have heads and you have tails. A lot of times in
Yep.
life, we only see heads or we only see tails. We rarely see the coin, right? And it's just noticing that one thing you need something to contrast in order to distinguish something. There's a necessary contrast. So they work together. So heads is tails because they couldn't work without each other. And you can stop interacting with the level of heads and tails and just interact with the coin. So that's sort of a basic way of saying it. It
Yeah.
may not be extremely understandable. To go back to what I was saying about tea, what I learned when I was drinking tea, it was saying like essentially I want to make my tea better. So to make my tea better, I can buy better tea. I can use better teaware. I can
Hmm.
get better water, stuff like this.
Hmm.
But then at some point it becomes a little strange. Like, when am I brewing tea? At what point do I start brewing the tea? Is it when I start boiling my water? Or is it the night before when I went to sleep? Because
uh,
if I'm sleepy while I'm drinking my tea, that's going to affect my tea.
where does the classification of that process end and begin, sort of
Exactly.
like?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And I can make just a hard line. I can say, well, tea brewing starts when I start boiling my water, or I can make that looser and recognize that tea, my tea session or my tea ceremony is defined by the rest of my life. Like, that's how I'm distinguishing it. And I
Mm.
don't have to interact with life separately from tea. I can interact with both of them together and just completely blur those lines.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And it's hard to that you did a good job of describing it, because it's like past that point, it might be useless to try and put that into words,
Hmm.
because it's like that's when it comes down to the experience. Like there's language doesn't do a very good job, especially the English language, of
Yeah.
describing things like this, because
Hmm.
it's not like self-help books, and other books that try and describe what you're describing. You just have to do it and figure out your brain and the way your brain works, how to navigate that situation and find what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, it's almost useless to talk about it after a certain point.
Yeah.
But
You
I love
definitely have
that.
to be
Yeah.
with people who kind of understand at least or are familiar with the space at all. Yeah, definitely.
So, do you think that um how does intelligence play a role in coming to insights and wisdom like this? That's something that's kind of, I don't know if it disturbs me, or I just don't have an answer for it, but I don't know where. And I don't even know necessarily how to define intelligence very good. I
Hmm.
like Yosha Bach's definition. It's the ability to apply models, basically. It's the ability to
Hmm.
build models of the world
Hmm.
in any way. But I like that definition. But anyway, yeah, where do you think it plays a role in wisdom? I know it gets real weird and difficult, but it's like I want things like this to be open
Hmm.
for everyone,
Hmm.
but it gets kind of strange when you start to discuss, like, okay, compare someone with like 150 IQ
Hmm.
to someone who might have an IQ of 70, and it's like, I don't think it takes away from the experience. Maybe it's just me thinking about it the wrong way,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I'm not sure exactly how intelligence is related. I can think of many ways that intelligence could be a barrier,
Mm,
and I could
okay.
definitely understand how if you're not very intelligent, it may be difficult to describe. So I like to point out oftentimes that
Uh,
there's a there's a distinction between like the things that we talk about, which is kind of like experiential theory. Some maybe you want to call it spiritual theory, And
Mhm.
you do have to be kind of smart to do that. It's a thing that you think about, and you have to filter it through your mind, and you say things, and
Right, right.
that's a process of intelligence, I think. But you
Gotcha.
don't need to have the intelligence to actually do it.
Yep.
And then sometimes the intelligence may be blocking us from doing it. So I think these are like independent things. They are related in some ways, but I think they're mostly independent.
I like that. I agree because that would because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we're talking about something that's not fundamental to our brain and nervous system, but fundamental to the totality of our experience. And
Exactly.
whether you have a 70 IQ or 150 IQ is arbitrary because it's about what's going on with the I don't know what qualia, I don't know what to call it, but you know what I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the whole experience. And so I like that because I I'm always like, when people discuss brain states like this or insights, I'm like, okay, well, how can this be available to everyone? Because if it's only available to you and you're super smart, then what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
it's not, it does not, it ceases to be holy and sacred because it's only sacred to a certain group of people or it's only available to them. So I don't know. I guess I'm just looking for universality, maybe
Yeah.
or something. But
I like to also point out and detangle that we have things that are intellectual, and the smart type people, me included, would sort of dismiss anything that's not intellectual. And I just like to point out that we have emotional intelligence and we have emotional understanding, and we have aesthetic understanding and aesthetic intelligence, I guess we can say. So there are people who are musical and they don't have the ability to translate it to normal logic or normal language, but that doesn't mean they're not musical. They're still like very, very musical. And you don't
mm,
need the ability to translate it to English in order to prove that you're musical. And the same with
uh,
emotions, right? There are some people who are very, very emotional and very in touch with their emotions. They can read emotions on other people, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to talk about your emotions. It doesn't mean it's easy to talk about how you're reading other people's emotions.
uh,
So these are just different things. And I think we can generally notice that in those fields, and I think it's very much the same here in the spiritual or experiential.
I do actually. I like that a lot because for a while I dismissed. I kind of went along with the sort of main not consensus but mainstream that various intelligences don't exist. But
Yep.
it's almost it's like semantics at that point because like if you're gonna so like you're saying someone that's very musically oriented they're very musically intelligent um, they have other ways of proving that, but the only way we measure intelligence is with a pen and paper, or you know what I
Exactly.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, how can you? It's just it's not, and I agree with scientists. Like, okay, if it's not testable or measurable, then I'm not gonna agree with you, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
I think that's yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And also to go along with that, there's a bit of an issue, weirdly, in this field, right? No one's going to go around talking about music theory. Like, I'm not going to tell you music theory and then you think that you just listened to Beethoven, right? That's never going to happen, right? I'm never going to tell you like brain states and then you think that you just felt love, right? That's not going to happen. So the theory is separated from the actual thing, and we kind of understand that. Like I can tell you about how to get gains in the gym, but you didn't just get gains in the gym. Unfortunately, in this space, it seems that we can talk, like I can talk about like insights or enlightenment or all this other fancy stuff, and we can listen to all these things and say, "Oh yeah, that was really interesting. I got it. I'm enlightened now." Like, no, we didn't do any of the work. You didn't experience any of it. Like, there's a big there's just such a big separation there. Have you dealt with that, or you said you used to listen to Leo a bit, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm try I was kind of getting my mind tangled up trying to follow. So repeat the question
Mhm.
again real quick and I will answer it.
Like getting caught up in the theory, the sort of spiritual theory, and thinking that that somehow is actually engaging with these deeper questions and actually getting something. Mhm.
Yes, I hopefully I'm not making the wrong jump here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, when I think about uh, my experiences with that, I think about me thinking too much. Number
Yep.
one.
Yep.
Number two, mistake, yeah, experience with intellectual thought. I mean,
Yes.
I one thing I haven't read Society of Mind totally with by Marvin Minsky. He's, well, for multiple reasons he's sort of controversial, but he's passed away now. Anyway, he just claimed that there's a lot of different types of thinking. There's not just one type of thinking. When you're angry, that's a type of thinking. When you're, et cetera, so on. And so, but those are not experience.
Yep.
It's not. Those are very different things. I mean, it's your theory, your model is almost always wrong. It's useful in some way, but it only gets you to a certain point. There's
Yep.
something else, and we suck at describing that.
Yep.
Is that kind of what you were getting at?
That's exactly it. Yeah, because we just don't recognize this gap between our explanations and our experience. But we do recognize it in terms of emotions. We do recognize it in terms of music theory or art theory. But somehow in this space, it seems that the experience and the theory are just too tangled up, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, too tangled. I like the word tangled too because that's visually it's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's you got to spend time piecing it or kind of getting things untangled
Hmm.
to figure that out.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, what else do I have here? Yeah, I even later down in my notes, I mean, we're getting into things like AI and transhumanism, aliens. I mean, if any of that interests you, we could go
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
Uh, so, oh man, so many things to discuss. I mean, okay, we could start off with basic. I mean, do you are you aware of recent happenings with guys like Bob Lazar and some, I guess you could call alien disclosure? Um,
Um, it's been a long time since I guess I've seen some of the Joe Rogan interviews with Bob Lazar and
yeah,
some of those other UFO type guys and aliens, but
yeah,
not too recently. So
okay.
I'm vaguely familiar, but not very much.
Um, well, as you might guess, they're claiming, well, they're sharing their stories about their knowledge about technology that the government or other agencies have gotten their hands on, and we don't think it's ours. Like we don't think it's human.
Yeah.
Um, do you think other life exists? There you go. I mean, do you think other life exists?
I don't know exactly how to answer that. I think I'm a little bit I think again the way that we define life is a little bit too unclear, and I think
Mhm.
the levels of scrutiny that we may give to other types of life would be a little bit unfair. So I'm not entirely sure, but
Ah,
let's just say in the most basic form of like gray aliens coming to the planet in UFOs, I don't have any particular belief in that.
okay. Um,
What about you? What's your stance?
I think honestly, I'm more. Well, I have listened to quite a few Bob Lazar interviews, um, eh, and just have just followed a lot of the cutting edge news in ufology, I guess, books, blogs, and YouTube lectures and things like that. And I just am thinking, I don't know, either it's a psyop or they're telling the truth. Because I mean, it's some of this goes so deep. I mean, with the Bob Lazar story, so much of that was verified
Mhm.
by trusted journalists. Um, you know where he worked, for example, things he worked on, and it just doesn't add up. So, I mean, I guess really what I'm most interested in is not necessarily, or yeah, it's not whether they're. I'm not most looking forward to figuring out that they're real. I just want to know what the hell the point is. Like, if they're lying, why? If they're not, then if they're not lying, it's more disturbing that the public, it's just cultural conditioning. Like,
Mhm.
why are we not taking it seriously? It's like it's just kind of a weird the idea of alien life. It's doing something to the minds of the people. I don't
Mhm.
know what how to describe it, but
Do you think there's, yeah, I'd want to know what is the importance, like what does it change for us if we do verify some sort of alien life or if we, debunk it all completely?
yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, assuming we don't understand their intentions. I mean, I don't know what the significance would be other than the scientists that were shouting down all the conspiracy theorists all along. They were wrong, so that's
Yeah.
satisfying. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many books written by um, I don't know. I understand. I mean, just coming from the scientific perspective, that piecing or just yeah, investigating a situation, things are complicated. I mean,
Mhm.
they're not easily explained, but the evidence for a lot of this is just overwhelming, and I don't understand why the scientific community won't touch it. I mean, I do understand, but what I don't know. It's just it's weird. I think there's some type of fear going on
Yeah,
uh, with it too.
definitely.
Um,
People get really sensitive when they find out that there are some things that were obviously faked or some things that were just like sleep paralysis or something like that. Some weird
uh,
claim that is very easily explainable, and people get really adamant about it because it's just their personal experiences. When you debunk a couple of those, then all the scientists are going to get real squeamish about the topic. I think that is something that happens there. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Um, let's see what else I have here.
Well, I'm still curious about even other definitions of life. You're saying the AI.
Hmm.
Um, I find it a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, but I think that we would never find or be satisfied with the consciousness of an AI. Because it seems that we don't really have a mechanism for our own consciousness,
No.
and we just assume that we're conscious, right?
Hmm.
And I think what's going to happen is anytime we have an AI and we say it's conscious, everyone's going to say, well, prove it. Like, where's the consciousness? And of course, it's just like, well, it's just circuit boards, it's just transistors, there's no consciousness. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, honestly, if we did the same thing with people, say, hey, where's your consciousness? And we just keep looking and say, well, there's just neurons in the brain, it's just chemicals, there's no consciousness. Like, the scrutiny would just completely erase the consciousness.
uh,
So I think there's some issue there. What do you think of that?
yeah, I think, well, if I'm being completely honest without trying to act like I understand a lot of this, because I haven't talked about it, and that's another barrier here. Is this like
Mhm.
my first? I have conversations with some of my friends, and I appreciate those friends for sure, and I'm sure they would love conversations like this. But yeah, I even the best that our society has to offer in terms of just general analytical ability, they don't know what the hell's going on
Yep.
either, because um it hurts my brain because the language, we don't have the right words to describe all this. And I've heard several theoretical mathematicians and statisticians say when they talk about where we really are with the brain.
Hmm.
I mean, I one of them said we're even worse than the Greeks. We don't know what, like, if you talk to real, you know, neuroscientists who study real neurons, I mean, you can plot, such and such, a graph of whatever electrical signals that are coming from whatever part of the brain. But
Hmm.
I mean, that doesn't teach you anything fundamental about what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I think about it. I know it's almost like I know what I'm drawn to, because it's kind of like it's a it's a desire for aesthetics, and beauty. I mean, guys like Gertzel. Have you ever heard of Ben Gertzel?
Never heard of it though.
He's a computer scientist, and uh, definitely pro singularity, like Ray Kurzweil. He's a futurist,
Hmm.
definitely, among other things. But I just like the way he thinks. But I don't I don't know if we can. Well, I guess Ben and some other scientists have said that they don't think we need to understand the brain totally to, we don't need to understand consciousness to make a artificial general intelligence, which means
Hmm.
something that can solve problems and teach itself new things, right?
Yeah.
Um, Still doesn't answer the question, but is useful nonetheless. So what I'm quickly realizing is I haven't talked about this enough, so I I have no idea how to word any of this. So bear with me, but
No, no worries.
thanks for asking the questions, because I'm trying to figure out the words to describe them. Um, do you have any other questions to get it going, get it turning?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that's interesting because you're saying that it's possible that we can find we can make some computer which is generalizable intelligence, so it could match our intelligence, but I don't think that would at all get us closer to having conscious computers if that's, if we're actually searching for consciousness here.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and that's fascinating to me, definitely fascinating.
So that does lead me to the next question in my brain would be, if we can make an artificial general intelligence, um, and let's say it's got, all of the intellectual capabilities, and maybe even what you could call creativity,
Hmm.
um, to a certain degree. It's got a lot of things, but it doesn't have, a limbic system. It understands emotions to the capacity that it needs to manage us, but
Hmm.
it doesn't need it for itself. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess, what would we be missing if we said, all right, we've got AGI, let's press the button, let's get rid of us, and let's let this thing be the next step in our evolution. Are we missing something? Would it be a mistake?
I don't think
Because
so.
there's even, you do or you don't?
Do not. I think it'll be
Okay.
the same. Not exactly the same. Obviously, there will be distinctions. I think
Ah.
for some reason we have this, well, I mean, the reason's obvious, but we just allow people to identify with the brain and the body, and we
Mm-hmm.
say, well, that's acceptable. Okay, you identify your brain and body. Well, consciousness must come from the brain. I don't think this is actually the case, um, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it really matters what is processing anything. I don't think there's anything special about consciousness as an abstraction from the particular processing that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that a lot of people would say that it's would think that there's something missing.
Yeah, that's the intuition for sure, because
Yeah.
you know, it's like it's like people a lot of people hate their lives, but then they would be scared. They all of a sudden they care. They're like, well, what about cheeseburgers? Like now all of a sudden these mundane things like tasting a cheeseburger or watching a good movie are not mundane anymore. They're what make human experience worth having.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know where I would actually be you know if it were me to decide to press the button to go forward with it or not. I like to think that I would press the button, but I don't know. Um, some days I'm like, I'm driving to work. I'm like, yeah, I'd press the button. But
Mhm.
but but other days I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, but more and more though, I do view things like I love food, but food is it's a tradition, it's a cultural thing. It has, well, it's geographical, but it's also cultural, and it's important to people. But I do more and more, my intellectual brain just says culture is a barrier. Culture is a way it's something that separates our raw consciousness, our raw, you know, experience from it separates us from our true situation, which is we're here. We don't know why we're here. No one does, and we don't know what the future holds at all. So that I think I don't know. I just love the questions that are turning in my head is okay. Well, what what's the point of it? I don't know. What's the point of anything? Because
Yeah.
you 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 create this AI to go forward without a limbic system, without the reptile, the primate brain, and it just exists to discover and explore the universe, maybe to experience joy and growth. Um, but what's the point? I mean, you quickly are like, all right, well, why should I care if it's not going to be me in in the future? It's going to be this AI. What I don't know. Meaninglessness just floods into my head at this point. I'm like, well, who gives a shit? I
Yeah.
don't I don't I don't know.
Do you think that a person necessarily is their brain?
I I don't know the answer to that. If I were to, like something that would okay, so like if I get whacked in the head with a baseball bat, I don't know how to, and I have some serious damage. I think I still have a conscious experience in that I'm experiencing something.
Mhm.
There's that part of my brain, hopefully. Now, I don't know if this is part of the brain or if this is outside of space and time in some way, but that awareness, that
Yes.
that one guy that was discussing, he's like the Gary V of the, I don't know what his name was, but he was like uh, meditate when you're drunk, or he said meditate. Do you remember that?
Yeah, this might have been Dr. K, the Twitch
Yeah,
streamer. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Like, I mean, I don't agree. I don't know. He's not really my taste, but I do see what he's saying about there's the observer. There's something in your brain that's watching the thoughts, and I guess I like to think that that is you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not my name's Nick. I don't think that that thing is Nick. There's
Yeah. Oh, dropped out for a second.
are we back?
Hello? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, we're good.
It was a scam call. Oh
Oh,
man.
wow.
Wow. Way to go. Way to go, world. All right. What was I saying? Oh, so yeah, I and I've um when I've drank, when I've taken other substances, I for sure have there's still like there's you're having you're drunk, you're feeling you know aroused in some way, you're having a great conversation, you're on an edible or something and you're having some weird dissociative anxiety, but there's still something that's observing that happening.
Yes.
And I do think that that's what we need to get at. We need to figure out what the heck that is.
Hmm.
I don't know if we can figure it out, but that's as deep as it goes as far as I know.
Yep.
Like, you're and honestly, I believe if you're, let's say you're or like a drug overdose, you're having a seizure, you're on an emergency room operating table,
Mhm.
and you're having that experience, there's still some little candlelight in there that's
Yep.
watching all of this happening.
Yes, exactly.
That is one thing that I am a believer in. I don't
Hmm.
know what it is, but and I don't know if I was in a vegetative state in a hospital in a coma having all these weird dreams because my brain's acting different, if there's still that thing in there watching all of this happening. I think that there is.
Yeah.
And then that kind of gets into the, surviving death. I believe in, everything being destroyed, the second law of thermodynamics and entropy. I that seems pretty solid to me, but there are things like, well, forgive me if I'm jumping topics here. I'm just getting all excited, but you know, uh, young kids there's many. I think it's called Immortal Remains. I haven't read the book, but it was recommended. Just a compilation of case studies of children and I guess maybe adults too, but that have verifiable memories of past lives of people that really did exist, but there's no way they could have known about any of that.
Hmm.
Uh, it's kind of everything breaks down at that point.
Yeah.
But I think that, and sorry to, well, I'll say one last thing and I'll let you go. I'm sorry. Uh, in my mind, so information versus like matter. That's been kind of on my mind lately because
Hmm.
information, we're in this age of computation, and there's something about information that my intuition says it's fundamental in some way. Information. I don't know, something about information is fundamental, and that's resonated with me a lot. But yeah, I'll let you go. I'm sorry. I keep
No worries, man.
I just am enjoying the talk. So
No
uh,
worries. You're going through a lot of things. It's good because all these topics, different topics, are very connected, and it just they just run off. Yeah, they
it's a
they bleed into
distractible
each other.
brain. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I don't really know about the idea of past lives in terms of that being in harmony with our ideas of science. I generally like science,
Okay,
so it is interesting, I think, to have these cases, but I don't know if that's necessary to talk about surviving death.
okay,
I think the biggest point in talking about surviving death is to figure out what is alive, right? Because
okay.
we know it's going to die. Your body's going to die. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are your body, well, your body's going to die. So you're dead.
Right.
But if you are that spark that's observing, as you described it, that's going to stay. That's going to persist.
Okay.
Whether that experiences anything or whether it's observing anything else, Probably, probably not. It doesn't really matter, but that's going to survive.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point. Yeah.
I think something that's interesting to me is to try to just kind of think about what systems have that spark of awareness.
Mm, mm,
Because what you were describing a second ago, how you can have your brain in different states, you can be drunk, you can be sober, you can be sleeping, whatever. The thing that's observing is the same. So it's not really dependent on any of the actual physical
ah,
qualities of your brain. That doesn't
right,
really matter.
right.
So what other systems have this spark? I would wonder. And
Okay.
that would be how I would define life. Now, obviously, that's not biological life, but that's how I think would be more interesting to define what is alive or what is life. And then we can
Right.
determine if we can be transhuman, and would we still be the same, right? Would we still have that spark? Would it still matter?
Ah, okay. That I like the way you frame that. That's a very it's articulate and it's specific. I like that. That's a good question. I have no idea how to respond to it, but that's that no, but I really I like that. That's a great distinction. And it's a better question to ask is what is alive? Yeah, and what um yeah, if you don't if you say that I am my body, then yeah, you and that is well, now death anxiety is on my mind now.
Yeah.
And that is if you want to think about it like logically, yeah, I mean, because we have all these ideas about what may happen to us after we die.
Hmm.
But if you think about it that way, um, if you are your body and you die, there isn't any you to have anxiety about what's happening to you after you're dead.
Yeah.
So there's zero to be afraid of in that way.
Yeah.
If you stick with if you're on your deathbed and you're sticking with the logic, I think, you know, you can probably use that to get away with a peaceful death in some way, hopefully,
Okay.
because that makes logical sense to me. And then the other way is well, this awareness, you say, okay, where is it?
Hmm.
Like there is an awareness. Um, and I guess we think of the awareness up here
Yeah.
only because our eyes are up here.
Hmm.
Our eyes and our mainly our senses are
Yeah.
up here. Our smell, ears, taste, all of that, our vision.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that it's in our brain somewhere.
Hmm.
The awareness, and that's why I maybe that awareness is somehow everywhere. Uh, without getting new agey too quickly, that's what it's leading me to
Yeah. Um,
everywhere. Um,
yeah. Yeah. It's
mm,
also kind of I found it easy for myself, and I don't want to go too far and say it's really easy, but you can change the location of your awareness. You can just move it. You can move it to your stomach, you can move it to your feet, you can move it outside of your body. You can just move it. And that's an interesting thing to notice. Um, I noticed a lot. I write down my dreams, and at some point I started to notice that like it was not always my perspective, and it's not always a person's perspective. Sometimes it's a locational perspective, or sometimes the perspective literally changes within the span of like a conversation. And
mhm,
noticing it in my dreams made it easy for me to pay attention to in my normal life. And sometimes it
mm,
happens like just randomly, or I can sit down and meditate and actually consciously try to move my awareness. And
mm,
that there's something about just like moving it so that you're
yeah.
not just thinking that it must be the brain. It must be there, because it doesn't have to be. You can change it.
Now, okay, so couple things on that. One is then if you're moving your awareness around,
Hmm.
and let's say, like I guess this is a rough description, but people that get into astral projection and
Yep.
things like remote viewing, what they call, things like that.
Hmm.
So if you can move your awareness, your brain, to your stomach, to your heart, to your legs, your toes, whatever. Do you think you can move it outside of your physical body? And if you
Yes.
can, okay, so if you can, what does that say about? I mean, then it just seems like this body truly is a vessel. Like whoever's talking, I mean, I don't know actually. Hold on. I'm this body is talking right now, but the awareness is interacting with the body, but it can move outside of the body because it's not tethered to physical reality.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah. And I completely agree with that. I don't know a lot about astral projection or any of that sort of spookiness.
Yep.
Um, so I can have my awareness outside of my body, and it's not the awareness is outside, it's the center of awareness is outside the body.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, you touch your hand, you feel it at your hand, but you kind of get the sense that it's reporting back to your brain.
Right.
You can change that. You can like just touch your hand and have it literally report to the hand, or you can
Yep.
have it report to like outside of the body. So the
Yeah.
center of the awareness is changed, but you still feel on your body, or you still feel the things here. Obviously, if you're doing it in dreams, it gets a lot stranger. You can feel more things. That's pretty interesting. Um, so yeah,
Sorry, hold on. It was cutting off there. Can you repeat that last like little phrase there?
yeah, I was
Sorry.
saying that it's interesting to be able to do in dreams, where it
Hmm.
becomes extremely obvious, and you can actually feel things that are not on the body. It's a little bit stranger. It's kind of hard to describe, really, but
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Um, Sorry, I don't even remember where we start from here. Oh, I was going to say that that sort of experience does sort of make me think that it doesn't feel like the body and the awareness. It doesn't feel like the awareness is tied to the body. It does feel kind of like but I don't even think vessel is the right word.
Mm.
It feels like when you jump, let's to give like a weird example. Let's say the awareness goes into a particular place or a particular body or whatever.
Hmm.
It The awareness doesn't have anything. The awareness doesn't have any memories. The awareness doesn't have any like it
Right.
adopts all the things that are there.
Right. Right.
So like the awareness can jump to me and then it suddenly has all my memories. And it can jump to you and it has all your memories. And you
Right.
wouldn't necessarily remember when it moved or changed. You'd have to like get really in tune to that to feel it.
Yeah.
Does that
Right.
make
Because
sense?
the memory is in our. The memory is well. What you're saying maybe that means because the memory is stored in this physical
Exactly.
in the physical matter of our brain and the architecture there. But so yeah, it's like so if you can move, I guess the next question that came up when you were describing that was if I'm moving that center of awareness, around, um, it's like what's moving it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like if awareness is like if everything in this universe is just soaked in awareness, you
Mhm.
can at any you can be a quark or a whatever, you can sort of view everything at any resolution as awareness. I guess it ends there because you can't comment on what's outside of that. It's some alien playing a video game, and that's what's outside of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It'll get so strange.
it,
Yeah.
it breaks my brain. I mean, that point, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the first step would be trying to get comfortable moving the awareness, getting comfortable. It's so weird because there's like it's not, you can start doing things where the body and the brain don't experience it. So the body and
Mm,
the brain aren't remembering it, but the awareness does. And
mm.
that's hard to really talk about, obviously, because the I don't remember it. So the thing that's talking doesn't remember, but
Right.
somehow the awareness is doing the thing. The awareness is doing its own thing, and you can tell that it's separate. Um, but I think if you get comfortable with that, then maybe you can start getting to those higher stages and understanding what is moving the awareness, and then you know break out of all that stuff.
And so, what do you think then would um, does practicing moving that awareness, um, learning how to, or not, maybe not learning, but just getting in touch with moving that awareness around, is there a benefit to our physical body, our experience as a human here? Is there a point to doing that? Because some people are enthusiasts about meditation in that way, and maybe some people looking for a peak experience. I want
Yeah,
to move my awareness outside my body, and I want to be a rock, or I want to do something strange. So, yeah, how do you see those two associated?
definitely the things that are remembered are fun. So that's kind of, I mean, there's a benefit there.
Yeah.
There's a feeling that when the awareness sort of detaches from the whole body system at all, and there's no like memory sort of driven to it, the
Yep.
the awareness feels like the you. So
Right.
there's this like real strong sense of like I don't need to identify with my own experiences. I'm not limited to the experiences of this body and this mind.
Okay.
And that is freeing for the body and the mind, right? Because the mind isn't just so stuck in its own things that it remembers and its own experiences. It's like, oh yeah, I don't have to be so strongly identified with the brain or with the mind. I
Yeah.
I feel much more like this other thing that kind of comes along for the ride occasionally.
Yeah. I don't know how at all to visualize. I'm trying to visualize that interaction, but
Mhm.
it's very difficult. But um, I can see, I can feel how that would work, and intuitively that makes sense to me. But describing it, I don't know, because there's there's the brain, there's the mind, and the mind is not this though.
No.
So yeah, but do you think then, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what question to ask, but it is very interesting nonetheless. I think a lot of people are wondering the same thing.
Mhm.
Um, that's, um, yeah, I've been recently getting into science fiction. I'm kind of coming into my own, you know, the the nickness. Um, it's been, I just was in kind of like a 10-year sort of amnesia, and I just wasn't being myself for a long time. And so now I'm like trying to catch up on years of reading science fiction and novels and things like that I wanted to do for a long time. And getting into some heavy science fiction, some kind of trippy science fiction like Philip K. Dick. Do you know Philip K. Dick?
Sure, I've heard a couple
Yeah.
old books. Yeah.
Yeah, like guys like him, who, yeah, I'm sure they have similar thoughts about this type of stuff. Um, there was something else I was going to ask with that, and I forget what it was. Um, feel free to fill the awkward space with your questions because I try to figure out what I was going to ask next. And uh,
Oh yeah,
productivity.
I was wondering where you're going with the science fiction. You know what?
I don't know. I think I was trying to go to multiple places at once, but
Mhm.
I I didn't look at the video. I just saw the thumbnail. But you're familiar with like Isaac Asimov. You're a fan of or and you're scientifically oriented. So Arthur C. Clarke. Do you like Arthur C.
Yep.
Clarke?
Yep.
Um, let's see. Who else do I got here? I'm looking. Oh, this is an interesting book. I guess I'll show you now, and maybe I'll review. I mean, it's a collection of stories, but this I just got from Amazon. I don't know if you can read that.
Red Star Tales. Huh.
Yes. So it's a century of Russian and Soviet science fiction.
Mhm.
Um, so it's just very different, and it kind of shows you where their culture, where their minds were for a long time in terms of what's out there versus the American view. So I'm really excited about that because I enjoyed. Actually, I read it a long time ago, but it's called Roadside Picnic.
Sure.
Uh,
Oh yeah, I like Stalker, the movie Tarkovsky. Yeah, it's
I
fantastic.
never have seen it.
It's such a
Never.
good movie. Yeah.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna write that down because I'm glad. I've several friends have recommended it, and I've not watched it.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
great sci-fi movie. But you kind of have to be a film nerd if you're not into film, it'll be very slow. So warning there, but it's a
okay,
great. But it's based off of that book, Roadside Picnics. A really good one.
nice.
Yeah.
So I saw it's very simple in concept. It's right there. I have
Hmm.
a poster of it in my room, but
Yeah.
it's a film called Annie R. Have you ever heard of that film?
I, no, what was the name again?
Aniara,
Aniara.
Aniara. It was made like an adaptation of I think a poem written by some Swedish guy, but simple in concept. It's about traveling to Mars basically, and Earth is a mess, and they're taking, I guess, the last of humans to Mars, and space flight has become, I guess, commercialized at this point. So it's kind of like flying on Southwest, except on a bigger ship,
Yeah.
with a lot of. And so anyway, it's something goes wrong. They get knocked off course and they can't turn back, and it's very simple, but it's about total annihilation. But it's a good film. So anyway, but Stalker, I will check that out, and I probably won't. It'll be slow going for me, I suspect.
Yeah.
So, uh, but let's see what else I got as far as I haven't actually. I have it on my shelf. I haven't read Snow Crash yet by Neil Stevenson. Have you heard of that?
I've no, I don't read very much. It seems like you
Oh,
read a lot of books. Yeah, I don't.
no, no. Well,
Oh.
that's the thing is I never used to. I had a
Oh.
lot of trouble reading when I was a kid, but and partly because the books that I was supposed to be reading, I was thinking about nature and plants and science fiction stuff, but reading what we were in school, I was like, this is the worst. So
Yeah.
um, I'm kind of just now getting back into it. So I'm not. I've got a lot of books on my shelf that I haven't read, but it's slow going. So um, what else do I got here?
What
Sci-fi.
is it about the Russian sci-fi? Like, what's the main difference, or what's some differences?
It's a little more. It's a little more gory and glib and not and dark.
Yeah,
It's maybe noir would be the right word. I don't know, but
interesting.
I every I do like I like themes that focus on compassion and love, and
Mhm.
I do believe in those things too, but um I also like when things don't turn out to be okay at all because I don't know, it feels more real to me, and I think some of these stories end up that way, and um I don't know. Maybe that's not true of American science fiction all the time either, but that's as far as I can describe it at this point.
Okay.
But um, trying to see what else I got here. Have you ever read any Werner Vinge?
I've never even heard of him before. No.
Yeah, no, these are all plugs that I've got from scientists that I follow. They have a lot of book recommendations. They'll just kind of pepper them in interviews, and I'll write them down, and then find them for a couple bucks on Amazon.
Hmm.
So that's been good. Um, okay, so questions now. Anything else? I don't want to keep this too long. I've already really enjoyed the conversation, so I appreciate again you meeting with me because it's been great. So
Yeah, it's great to chat, man. And I'm generally available. I like to talk. So if you ever
yeah,
have any more questions or if you want to link up another time, I'd love to hang out. And, I'd like to see where your channel's going and, how it grows and all that stuff. Do you
yeah.
think you're mostly like, will be doing interviews and connecting with people, or do you have plans on doing some like your own thing separate from that?
Um, so far, I envision interviews with people and probably some book reviews because it gives me more of a reason to. I mean, I like to discuss. It helps me learn, to
Yeah.
discuss these things. So after I read a book, whether it's a bad interview or not, I'm gonna probably post those. Um, and the interviews, as far as those go, I look forward to more interviews like the one we had with small. And I'm kind of after smaller channels. I don't. I mean, it's maybe a little bit of a contrarian in me, but I'm just if someone goes this way, I just want to go the other way because I
Yeah.
want to make something new.
Hmm.
So I so and to my benefit, that means I have a very very long list of people to interview that are going to be interesting.
Yeah.
That aren't in the mainstream. And then aside from that, would like to do a series because what I'm going to be studying in graduate school is going to be environmental science, toxicology, and data science. So I would like to discuss or interview some scientific experts in lesser known fields that are either old or they're emerging, and specifically, for the not just to kind of tell everyone what they're doing, but because I think certain fields, like even engineering, for example, their approach to problem solving is super useful for other fields, like
Yep.
even like psychology, which it was a long time ago. And so I want to get a feel for different scientific disciplines and even non-scientific, and what their particular lens is about the world. So
Mhm.
how their principles and their concepts from their field paint their picture of reality, and that is super interesting to me because there's always new ones. It seems like that's what I like for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely the method that we use to view reality, I mean, obviously shapes the way that we see reality. So getting different people from vastly different fields with different mindsets will give a much broader picture of the world. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That just really excites me. It's novelty. Yeah, novelty is a good word to describe it. I like. Yeah.
Will your
Go
book
ahead.
reviews, I'm wondering, will they be mostly like nonfiction stuff, or are you also doing the sci-fi things, throwing that in there too?
I think it will mostly be sci-fi. So right now, I'd say the books that because as much as I'd like to review a textbook, I have quite a few of those, and I don't. I might do those, but they'll be maybe a few minutes long. Like, hey, this was a good for learning X or Y. But um, you know, I have a bunch of books here. They kind of span from, pure science fiction, even like H.P. Lovecraft, some older stuff like that.
Very good stuff. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, all the way up to uh, cosmology. Even some books just from popular physics. This one is by Max Tegmark, if you've heard
Hmm.
of him.
Yep.
Life 3.0. there is a book. Yeah. So anyway, stuff like that, cosmology and sort of, yeah. I mean, it's a spectrum, but
Yeah.
I think not, or I sorry, I think fiction and then sort of speculative cosmology, stuff
Hmm.
that's fun, and it is fun and interesting to think about. And I'll probably I see myself reviewing those, and yeah, I think so.
Very cool. I feel like this is like something that's missing in terms of our appreciation of art is the actual like sort of structured appreciation, right? Actually reviewing things, actually like criticizing it maybe, or putting theories on top of it, or abstracting the theories that come from it. That's
Right.
probably my favorite way to interact with art. I wish to do like movie reviews and getting to the film technique or learning about the narrative techniques in sci-fi and how the themes relate to stuff. That's such a fascinating way to me because I think it's such a creative process,
Right.
and unfortunately it's not very much appreciated. So
I,
yeah.
I love that. I think that aligns very well with what I want to do too, because it's and it certainly is the harder route, because
Hmm.
I could do a very soft, and I'm not saying that I won't do. I probably, some of these will be fairly soft, but because to do what you're doing takes time.
Yep.
Um, it's more, it may be difficult, and it may not be totally enjoyable through the whole process, because you do have to. There's a bit of studying that comes
Hmm.
with that, but um, at the end, I think it'd be well worth it, and it is really contributing something if you have something to say about the book other than what you kind of liked about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it seems like common sense. It's like, well, you know I don't know, it seems pretty intuitive to me to mesh, you know like careful analysis and just like you say, structured reviews like
Hmm.
that's. So I resonate with that very much, and not saying I'm not going to fail at this, but because I might get, because it takes time, and it might
Yeah.
take me. I got so many books, and it's going to take a while to get through 'em. I think it's just the better path.
Hmm.
It's more enriching to do it that way.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's a great point. And then you should do film reviews. That would be, I would watch them. I mean, not really. That's and it's a good exercise in showing people the value of working on your attention span, because
Yeah.
that's how you solve problems. It won't just make you better, you know, on YouTube. It'll make you better at your job. I mean, things take time. You have to focus. You have to be detail oriented, and the details do matter. And anyway, so I like that. And you should do film reviews. That would be awesome. Uh,
Yeah. Would be a lot of fun.
so yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I don't think I have too much else, because really they're probably just more questions that'll lead to long discussions. I think I've covered a pretty good amount of what I wanted to.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, if we do talk again, some things I have left, and
Hmm.
I would love to talk again. So I'll keep in touch, and we'll see what we can figure out in the future. But yeah, so one of your videos, I think, is productivity a mind virus? Something that was a good title. I hadn't looked into it yet, but it's an interesting thought.
So that's
Um,
actually that's a old time radio. So I like radio plays. You're talking about science fiction. This is
huh.
an old time radio play.
Uh-huh.
Um, I can't remember. It may have been Ray Bradbury. Um, anyway, it's a sci-fi thing. Um, so that's like a film review, but it's like a radio review actually, a narrative review.
Okay. Okay. I'll check that out. Huh. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that. Did you say radio play?
Yeah, so like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, before TV was really big, they did all their entertainment on the radio. So
Huh.
like these are like really highly produced with like real actors and great production value. for radio plays.
Wow.
And they're really good. I really love the medium. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's it's different. That's really neat. Have you heard of a guy named, actually I don't know how to pronounce his last name. His name is Kurt J Jum Jai Mungle. I don't know how to
Never heard of
pronounce his
that.
name.
No, Kurt
Well,
Heim.
anyway, he's a
No.
guy with a podcast called Theories of Everything.
Mhm.
He's sharp and articulate, like you, and he has a math and physics background, but he's a filmmaker, and he interviews people with he's just a great interviewer. He's highly technical. He's very sharp. So I don't know. Anyway, it just came to mind because I thought, oh, maybe you had heard of the guy because he's a scientifically oriented filmmaker. He has appreciation for film. Anyway, so that's him. Uh, Radio play. I think that's about it for now. Yeah, well, there'll be more to talk about at some other point. I'll get in touch with you.
Okay.
See
I've
what.
got a couple questions for you.
All right.
Do you pay attention to your dreams?
Um, it actually is an interesting question. For me, even right now, more so because I've always been a very vivid dreamer throughout
Hmm.
my life, strongly vivid. My sister as well. I think my mother too. And from the clinical point of view, you could say, well, maybe they got some sleep disorder, maybe they got sleep apnea or
Yeah.
whatever. I've heard many times, and I yeah, okay, sure, but they my dreams get pretty crazy. And even lately, I've had quite a bit of a sleep disturbance for the past few months, and it seemed to increase my dreams.
Interesting.
I dude, I I should record them because oh, it's just crazy. I don't even know where to begin, but they're very vivid. Often they're lately they've been there's been an airplane in a lot of them. I've been at an airport,
Uh-huh.
or I've been flying, or the plane's been having serious turbulence. Um, my friends are in a lot of my dreams, and specific friends that
Hmm.
I haven't like one. Do you mind if I kind of go off here on
Please,
a couple of
please.
so um one guy, his name, I won't give his last name, but his name is Jimmy, and I've known him most of my life. He was in my kindergarten class, and uh, we weren't like super close, but close enough. But he just, most importantly, he was one of the most genuine, strong-minded, tough, just well-rounded individuals, and just gentle, kind, but tough individuals I've ever met in my life. And he's often in my dreams. And I haven't talked to him in years. Couple, probably 4 years now.
Mhm.
Um, but he's in there. So it's like, yeah, my dreams are heavy in just dripping with emotion
Mhm.
and themes. Like everything is painted with some type of theme. I mean, and this may
Very
be everyone's
interesting.
dreams, but they're super vivid. Sometimes they're very apocalyptic. Sometimes, but well, let's be honest. Mostly, I'll be honest. They're mostly dark.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but a lot of them are pretty dark. Um, Not much hope in them. Um, but that doesn't mean like it's like so there can be events that happen like me and my friends enjoying a pizza at some odd location, and but everything is still painted with that hopelessness. That's
Hmm.
how it like, and
Interesting.
then yeah, and then one other interesting aspect, and hopefully this doesn't like disclose some sort of mental illness about my about my psychology, but this is interesting because people's people's identities in my dreams, and I don't know if this still goes on. I don't think as much, but it used to.
Mhm.
Their identities would just change like this. So
Yeah. Sorry,
say
you cut out for a second.
and
Wait,
I
you
walk closer.
sorry for a second. You cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're back. You were saying that the
Okay.
identities change very quickly and then cut out.
Yeah. So say you're in my dream and I oh that's Zachary. I turn around and I walk towards you and then you change into something or someone else.
Yeah.
It's like it's really weird.
Yeah.
Like I'll look at someone and I'll be like, "Oh, that's such and such," but it will be me or something.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Like it's trippy. Like I'll be like, "What?" And like in the dream, I'll be like, "Yeah, that's such and such." But then that awareness that we're talking about, that thing, that
Yep.
awareness, I wake up and I'm like, "Wait, that." So I was calling them that name, but that was me or
Hmm.
that was someone else.
Yeah.
So they get swapped. Like it's, and that's one thing I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on there.
Yeah, I have similar things happen definitely with like a person may change or morph, or I may become that person, or my awareness will just shift to a different person and continue with their life. Weird things like that
Right.
happening. Yeah, that's very, very cool.
It is cool, and it's maybe should pay more attention to it, just because it's interesting.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's probably the extent to the. I mean, there's other weird things, but I think that's one of the most interesting, um, like yeah, goings on that is just pretty. It's pretty consistent.
Hmm.
I'm thinking maybe if there's one or a couple other things that are bizarre. Um, Oh, this one's probably pretty common with a lot of people. My mom, I know, I think she has this too, but and I think it might just speak to the effect of the education system that we have here on kids. But I have a lot of because I was a highly I was a underachiever.
Hmm.
I was had high test scores on this and that, but I never performed very well or consistently, especially in my adolescent years. Um, I was always just, the rebel, like just not listening or not whatever. I was just bored with school. And my dreams often are me being late for class or messing something up
Yeah.
in school
Hmm.
and just feeling terrible about it. And I'm like, I without overcomplicating it, it just speaks to and it even spills over into how I'm having trouble just studying what I want to study, how I want to study it, and being effective that way. How much I think school affected that because
Hmm.
no, you start with page one and then you go to page two, and it's like
Right.
no, 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 you don't have to that way. It's about what's your goal, what's your project,
Hmm.
what are your questions. You don't have to read a book that way necessarily. Um, and so I think because I'm having trouble with that. That's an ongoing theme in my dreams. But
Yeah, that's really tricky because you want to have that freedom to be curious, but that's been so stifled off, and it kind of gives you that anxiety, and you want to do something, but you have to do it in this one particular way, or else. Yeah, that's really tough, really tricky. Yeah.
yes, no, that's it. That's exactly it. I don't think it has to be anything more deep than that, but it's enough to be significant in my life.
Mhm.
So it's yeah. Um,
Yeah.
let's see.
And I guess final question. So that was a lot of fun about the dreams. I like that.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
yeah.
about do you have any meditation practice or any relationship with psychedelics or anything like that?
This is another deep question. Let me try and answer this simply. So, okay, so yes, my meditation habits are non-existent, even
Okay.
though even though I off and on probably throughout the past 6 years, I've practiced it off and on and seen immediate benefit from it.
Mm,
Just from at least, and no particular method, but um, detaching from the craziness of my head and
hmm.
just sitting and slowing down is the big thing. Just slowing down. Um, so the answer to that is yeah, no, I don't currently, but I know that I should. I think it's just one of those things. It's breaking habits. It's slowing down. It's tough. It's like
Yeah.
easy to talk about because it's like, yeah, just do that. But you have the momentum of all of your psychology throughout your
Yep.
day. It's difficult to slow that down. But um, so no on that one. And then psychedelic use, relationship with that, I have some, although uh, probably due to a bit of a whacked out ego, the control freak in me. I've had limited experience with them, although, and I don't think they're for everyone. I'm coming to terms with that. I don't think that they're for everyone. I think they can be incredible. It's just like anything else. It can be really useful for some people, and I have had experiences with them. Um, I can't say that I've probably done it to the extent to to some sort of ego death. I mean, maybe I've gotten to that point, maybe one or two times, but they're interesting nonetheless. So, for example, just because I don't do them, I'm giving myself permission to at least, I'm familiar enough with them, to discuss their importance.
Hmm.
Hold on. Did you? Oh, okay, you froze for a second. So this book, I don't want to. I'll let you continue, but I want to show you this book real quick. I hope to interview this guy, Andrew Gallimore.
Uh-huh. Alien
So,
information theory.
alien information theory. It's basically, roughly speaking, it's kind of trying to prove that the DMT realm is just as real as this experience.
Uh-huh.
That's I think essentially that's it. It's trying to use science to kind of point at that and say, hey, this needs to be looked at, and maybe we can map the DMT world, and it might be maybe it's useful in some way, or maybe it's not. But so anyway, so okay, so after all that, yeah, no, I don't meditate, but I know that I should, and if you have advice that would be worth giving, because I know ultimately you just got to do it,
Yeah.
then I welcome that. And then, yeah, the psychedelics, minimal, but I'm very familiar with their workings and their importance. And I got into them first by Terence McKenna.
Mhm.
So that's that. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. I'm just interested to hear about how, like, these are some interesting topics, and I think meditation and psychedelics sometimes is a big driver in these types of topics. So I was kind of curious about
Hmm.
that for you.
Ah, you.
No advice really. I think the idea that you should be doing it, I don't think that's correct. That may be a little bit too much pressure. Um,
I agree. Thanks for
yeah,
that's good that you pointed that out.
yeah. But beyond that,
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever find the time, go for it and just enjoy when you can, and that's it. Nothing more to it.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. That's a good attitude, and that's appreciate you saying that because it's the same thing with my reading. I mean,
Hmm.
it's to my benefit. It's what I think is important, and I shouldn't go at it with any other perspective than that. I
Yeah.
just um what else was I just gonna say with that? Oh, so you just said you were interested mostly in the meditation and the psychedelic experience that I had, because and I agree, it does commonly drive an interest in these in topics like this. So would you say that your interest in your awareness, your experience, the mind, um, the topics that we've discussed, would you say that's primarily due to your meditation and psychedelic experience, or
Um, hmm. Yeah, well, I've never done psychedelics, so
okay? Yeah.
nothing there. I
Yep.
It has to do with the tea. So when I talked about the tea and the sort of non-duality, that was like that actually really affected me and hit me trying to figure out the distinction between tea and normal life. And then I started paying attention to my dreams and noticing how my dreams affect my life and how my life
Yeah.
affects my dreams and that
Gotcha.
same sort of thing. Um, and I kind of with that led into meditation. So I started there and then I got into meditation. Um,
Ah.
so that's sort of how I got really into these topics, starting with
Yeah.
tea, weirdly enough. So yeah.
Yeah. So I love hearing story. I just yeah, whether they get views or not, I just would love I love having these conversations
Uh-oh, you cut out for a second.
with people. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we're back.
Hey, the Skype's doing its best, but I'm glad we're yeah, anyway. So I just cut myself off. Um uh, uh, uh,
Well, you were saying that you know, enjoy these sort of weird, hearing how people get
oh,
started into these. Yeah.
yeah, just the story, your experience with tea, just like that trajectory, what it was that really just kickstarted the interest in that area. Because I mean, I think it's already sort of in your being. Who people like me and you. I mean, everyone. I think everyone has a capacity for this stuff, but I mean, for me, it's just an obsession, and I think I got there through you know uh, discovering Terrence McKenna. I mean, the person that I was in college before I kind of discovered Terrence was, I mean, serious identity issue. I mean, I was like, not to say anything about people that wear stuff like this, but just to give you a picture, I was, you know, high Nike socks, high tops, tank top, wearing a Christian necklace when I wasn't a Christian, uh, big old earrings on my. I mean, I just was so out of touch with myself. And then I kind of discovered Terrence McKenna, and really, aside from his theories on things, it was mostly just him giving me permission to be like, I had never heard someone who had thought things that I had thought my whole life. I'm
Mm,
like, someone else is thinking that, and it changed everything. I was like,
yeah.
well, he gave me permission to say, hey, this is important. What you're thinking about is important because it's your view of the universe, and that's that's important for you, is to
Yeah.
cultivate your own view. And that, and then just nature, plants. I've always been drawn to plants and ecosystems since I was a kid. It's my it's my tranquil place, you know. Um, so yeah, for you, is it has it been was it music since you were a kid that I mean, what's been your magic, throughout your life? What's yeah.
I absolutely love music. I love all types of art. We talked about movies a little bit earlier. We talked
Yep.
about radio plays a bit. This long, long time I just listen to radio plays all day long.
Yeah.
Um, I used to travel a lot, so all of that is the magic. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so it's like, and I like that talking about it because I don't know what it's like to love radio plays and music, but I know the magic feels like. So it's
Hmm.
cool to know that to hear someone else's magic and know that it's the events, the series of events and the specifics are totally different, but the
Yeah.
experience is the same.
Hmm.
It's that zest for life. It gives life color, you know.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. That's
And
awesome.
also just a little one little extra note there. What I learned from tea is that you can practice that. So you don't have to wait for something to give you that magic. You can actually do it yourself.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, I I feel like you had touched on that in the beginning, but I see what you're getting at.
Mhm.
Um, I think that pretty much covers it. I like I'm kind of and I I should have like an end of conversation spiel because I'll probably, if I let myself, I'll just keep introducing topics and then it becomes 5 hours long. Which, by the way, that's pretty impressive. 5 hour live stream. Is that
Yeah.
just one take? I mean, live stream like one take?
Yeah, we just you sit there the whole time. I go to the bathroom a couple times, but that's about it. I might get lunch,
Dude,
but yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And your channel, by the way, too. Um, just the literally the colors, the way that you've kind of constructed things, it really neat. It the way that you've placed your words and little how you have things laid out
Uh,
digitally and with your ceremony in the room, and it creates a nice little space. It's like it's nice. So
yeah.
good job with that.
I'm glad you like
Yeah.
it. Thank you very much.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that's one area I have like I'm I'm like goose egg with that. So I need to work on that. But anyway, that's about it. Unless you have any other questions for me,
Nothing
we can
else.
plan on doing this some other time, and I'd love to discuss other topics.
Yeah, it'd be
So
great. Nick, let me know whenever. Let me know when you upload this so I can share it with everybody else. Or I probably upload it myself too, cut up
great.
something and upload some things. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun to talk, and I'd love to chat again.
Yeah, good deal. All right. Well, thanks, Zachary, and thanks anyone who's listening. Hopefully, you enjoyed this, and I guess I'm supposed to say like, share, and subscribe. It feels weird, but anyway, yeah. Thanks everyone, and thanks for joining me today. So
All right, catch you another time.
take it easy.